Hello, and how are you keeping? I'd like to start by thanking you for all your emails, messages, cards, and especially your prayers. And thank you so much, I'm feeling much better. It seems a while now since we've seen each other or spoken to each other, and our life as we know it has changed out of all recognition. Of course, now we're in Holy Week, following the last days of Jesus' days on earth before his death. And being in isolation is something that we're not used to. And through my own isolation, it's given me time to sit and think about the lead up to Easter, and especially about the isolation that Jesus found himself in. You may think, and quite rightly think, that the most obvious isolation he spent was in the wilderness for 40 days. But then you could say that he chose to be there and he had a good reason for being there. But more noticeably, during Holy Week, time and time again, Jesus is isolated. Along with this message, you should also find some pictures, prayers and a poem. If you can't find them, please go to the church website and you'll find them on there. Now, as you know, last Sunday was Palm Sunday, and we see Jesus isolating himself as he goes into the temple and turns over the tables, throws out the money changers and upsets a lot of the crowd. The first picture that I've sent you is Salvador Dali's Last Supper. This picture hangs on the wall opposite my desk, so I get to see it and look at it a lot. Now, even though all the disciples are sitting around the table with Jesus, there's something quite different about it. Jesus, if you notice, has his head raised up, whereas all the disciples are looking down. And although they're all together, I think he's isolated himself, maybe because he knows what is about to happen to him. If we move on to Gethsemane, again Jesus is isolated. Remember how he asked the disciples to stay awake and watch with him, and twice they managed to fall asleep and leave him on his own. Judas, of course, appears with a crowd, and Jesus is arrested and placed into isolation. And if that's not bad enough, Peter, one of his closest friends, as we know, disowned him. Jesus remains in isolation, except for the soldiers, who are there only there to mock him and to abuse him. He's made to walk the streets of Jerusalem, and lots of people will be going about their usual business. But again, I'm sure he must have felt very isolated, there alone, carrying that heavy cross. On the cross, which is our second picture, he realises the ultimate isolation when he calls out to his Heavenly Father in those words that send a chill down my spine. My God, why have thou forsaken me? Because for me there is no greater isolation than being away or apart from God. Jesus' body is then moved to the tomb, which is our third picture. But for us, thankfully, the story does continue. The fourth picture is this picture which is from Easter morning, and Jesus is risen. He is risen, we say in church normally on this Sunday, and everyone responds, "He's risen indeed." For Jesus, the isolation is now over. He has defeated death to show his love for all of us and to offer to us salvation. To put that into another words, he offers us an escape from a life that is not good to a life that is good and worth living alongside him. And so whilst we live in isolation at the moment, do keep up your spirits and remember that you are not alone. God is with you every second of every day. Finally, I've included a poem which many of you will either know or have heard of. It's a poem called Footprints. I've also included one of my favourite prayers, which was written by a man called Thomas Merton. And I've included these because both of them seem very appropriate during this present time. So do read them, and as you read them, accept the reassurance that God is with you. And so may I wish you all a peaceful Easter, and above all, please keep safe.